business. It's business time. Hang tight, we're gonna get into the business right here in a couple minutes. Baby, baby. It's business. It's business time. All right, it is week 14 of It's Business Time. I am here with Liv McClintock of Town and Shore Handcrafted. Liv, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm
Wonderful.
glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So great to have you. Wonderful Market Street business. I can't wait to jump into your story. Can't wait to jump into everything that I did a little bit of reading and things like that before we started up. But real quick, before we get started, I do want to thank Stitch House for having us every week. Stitch House right here on Market Street. Great, great beers. They always have 12 beers on tap. Great food. Liv, what are you drinking here this week?
I am drinking the Tropical Lightning, which is one of my favorites.
The Tropical Lightning. I do love that one as well. I am doing the road soda, the Kolsch, nice clean kind of German beer flavor. Well, cheers to Stitch House. And with that, we are running. So just to kind of jump right into it, you were someone that I got connected to through Downtown Visions.
Yes.
They love your business. They love your mission. They love everything about what you're doing and are huge supporters of the small business scene here. They linked up with me a couple weeks ago and were like, this is a good series. Here's some great people that you need to have on.
Okay.
And so that's where I learned about you.
I'm flattered.
And so being our first time, this series, I just want to tell you a little bit. This series is largely for small business owners who are either starting or are thinking about starting.
Okay.
And the goal, if they get one thing from my series, I want that to be some of the challenges and difficulties in growing a small business, and maybe, with our powers combined, we can help them get over some of those hurdles before they arrive. So, with that in mind, kind of as you're talking about the growth of your company, the growth of your business, think of the new entrepreneurs, the people out there who have an idea and are scared, or those who are already moving and are struggling, and some of the lessons that they might be able to learn from a successful entrepreneur such as yourself.
Okay.
But first question, where did this all start? What were you doing before you decided to strike out and be an entrepreneur? And then what happened to send you in that direction?
Okay. Well, this isn't my first rodeo. I had another business that I spent 18 years growing, that I sold before me and my husband decided to have a daughter.
Okay.
And, as a mom who, I was an IT consultant specializing in network engineering for 23 years. And it's kind of hard to go from that to being home with your kid, just kind of chilling, watching show tunes. And so once my daughter got to school age, I was going crazy. And I was like, okay, I need something else to do. Up until then, I had spent 2 years going through the process of selling my old company.
Okay.
Dragging my kid around along with me in the process of doing that. While I was doing that, I needed a bag that I could carry things in. I was a nursing mom.
Oh my goodness, I love this.
And as a nursing mom and an executive, you don't want to walk in with the bag from Babies R Us that falls over and everything falls out.
Right.
Your pump, your milk, all of it across the boardroom table. So I have sewn my whole life. I was taught by my mom and my aunt.
Yeah.
And it was a hobby before. But I decided I wanted to have something special, something that was specifically geared towards what I needed in terms of files, computers, places to put those things. And I designed it and I made it myself. It was rough looking, let me tell you. But I decided to make it out of leather because that was something that I needed to go with the aesthetic from what I wore day to day in and out of offices and working with clients.
Right.
And it worked. Friends saw it, they wanted one. And as you know with friends, they seem to tell other friends.
Right.
And next thing you know, I'm making more bags for people. Finally, I got tired of that, told them they needed to pay me.
Yeah, wow.
Yes. I was like, okay, come on, guys. Leather's not cheap.
Yeah.
So they needed to pay me, and they were willing to do it. It was at that point I decided, this might be something that I can do while I'm getting my daughter ready for school, getting her ready for other things.
Right.
At that point, she was about 3. And so I spent the first 2 years really kind of developing the business idea.
Yeah.
And, fashion's not an easy area to get into. One, because there's kind of 2 ways you can go about it. The fast way, which is the traditional way,
Yep.
they teach you in college.
Yep.
Or the slow way, which is what I chose to do.
Right.
When I continued to research, I decided I wanted to do a business that wasn't just another fashion, another bag company. I wanted to do something that also represented where I hoped to see fashion going, and that was in the slow fashion area.
Yeah.
And, really to support that, it takes small businesses.
Yeah.
Small businesses that are focused on making small batch, small volume items that are really high quality and not overproducing. And
Yeah.
I've kept that the focus the whole time.
Yeah.
So as I was developing that idea, kind of understanding the market and how to get into fashion, because this was completely different than network engineering.
Right.
Right. It took me a couple of years to kind of solidify what I wanted to design.
Yeah.
And, after that, I decided now I need to find a market.
Right.
And this whole time I was home with my daughter. And so it's not something where I jumped out there and said, okay, I'm ready to go get staff and a location and all of these things. To have the, funding to do that.
Right.
That's quite a commitment when you don't really know if you're safe in that industry.
Right. Yeah. You were doing bootstrapping with leather.
Bootstrapping with leather. That's great. Yes, absolutely. And it was me and my husband, and I explained my idea to my husband. He and I met when I was running my first company. He kind of saw the hustle and everything that I did, and so he's like, he was very supportive, run with it. And, I think for entrepreneurs, that's probably the first thing. We need that supportive group there, because it requires a lot of self-motivation, a lot of kind of get up and go, pushing yourself. There's plenty of days where you have doubts.
Right.
There's plenty of days where people add doubts. So, having that support system is great. When I started my first business, I was 26. Didn't have that. You're young and dumb then. So.
Yeah, I almost feel like I should have you on a second time to learn about the first business, because it's everyone's, I shouldn't say everyone, but it's many entrepreneurs' dream to get to the point to sell a business. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. This is about Town and Shore. But do you mind, what was the date where you sold your last, and then the date where you started making the new one? Like, what was the kind of time gap?
That was in 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I founded Town and Shore in 2013.
Yeah.
As I said, I'd been working a couple of years
wow.
on the idea before I actually got to deciding, okay, I'm going to incorporate it and, all of that. And even then, I still wasn't 100% sure how am I going to market this.
Right.
Because everything is made, my focus was on making goods that were made by the designer. So we have tons of designer names out there, Michael Kors, Louis Vuitton, all of these. None of those people actually make their product.
Right, yeah.
And I wanted to bring something that was American made, made by the designer, made in-house.
Wow.
And I wanted to do it in Delaware. And so that required kind of looking at what resources I had available. On top of that, I had to learn to go from where my sewing skills were, which was very, very basic in leather, very extensive in clothing, but very basic in leather, to take them from where they were to where I needed it to be to sell what I call a fine leather good.
Right. Yeah, so the early days, so you knew you wanted to do specifically leather early on, and it was a journey to, to educate yourself to the point where you were proud of what you were creating.
Yeah, and part of that is, I'd spent a career that was in corporate. So
Yeah.
I knew the clientele that would buy
Yeah.
those goods, and I knew what their expectations were.
Yeah.
And so that helped me. I was that target customer.
Yeah.
That helped me a long way in understanding what level I needed to be at. What it didn't help me do was find the information and the training. A lot of it I had to depend on myself to self-teach and learn.
Yeah.
But as I got further and further into researching leather, I found other entrepreneurs that had been doing that for years. I found other craftsmen that were willing to teach. I found some craftsmen that weren't willing to teach, but cajoled them enough that they finally gave in and
Right,
said, "All right, fine." And so those things helped build my confidence in the good that I was producing.
Yeah, got you. So you had mentioned the phrase fast fashion and slow fashion.
Yeah.
I don't want to assume I know what that means. Fashion is not my forte. But what did you kind of mean by the difference between fast fashion and slow fashion, just from a product perspective?
So everyone says fashion's not their thing, but we choose every day something to put on, something that we carry our money in.
Oh, no. I like fashion. I'm
Yeah.
just saying I wouldn't consider myself an expert
I
in the
get it.
industry. Yeah.
No. And to some degree, it's hard for anyone to be an expert in the industry. But in most cases, if you're a student, coming out of fashion school, they're going to teach you that you are going to design this for a company that is going to be based on what the trends are.
Right.
It's going to be based on the volume that you can produce, the number of
Gotcha.
stores you can get in, those things. It's very focused on the commercialization of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
oftentimes, designers are backing into a price point.
Right. I see.
So the price point comes first
Right.
to fit the market, and
Yep.
then they got to decide how to design around it.
Right.
Higher quality and fine goods are usually built around the craftsmanship being first,
Right. Okay.
not the
I see.
price.
Yeah.
And so you can focus then on making that good to last 20, 30 years. You can focus on the reinforcements, the quality of the product, and you can focus on the sourcing of the
Right,
materials, because you're not necessarily focused on getting materials at the cheapest point. So all of those things were really important to me, but there are also the things that are really, really hard. When I went in and hired consultants to tell me, how do I get into this fashion industry? What do I need to do? I was basically told, come with $100,000. You need to
Right.
find a factory. You absolutely can't do it yourself. And you need to pump out this much in volume to get into stores like Macy's and things like that.
Yeah.
But Macy's doesn't really focus on selling indie designer, small, fine leather goods that are
Right.
small batches.
Right.
They focus on volume.
Yeah.
And so
It
that was hard
reminds
for
me a
them
little
also.
bit of a saying, like when a company is starting out, sometimes you want to go find 100 people to give you $1. Other times you want to find one person to give you $100, right?
Yes.
Most companies settle somewhere in the middle, right? They want to do quality things for a few people rather than, the Alibaba route,
Right.
But yeah, it's so interesting to talk to someone who was in the corporate world,
Yeah.
and I don't know exactly what you were doing, but typically corporate comes with high volume, a lot of turnover, a
does.
lot of people, a lot of just a fast-paced environment.
Yeah, in fact, when I was in the consulting area, our verticals were in manufacturing, in healthcare, and in nonprofits.
Yeah.
And they're very different, but in manufacturing you see that volume. It's high
Right,
turnover, getting the product, and a lot of staffing.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So these were the early days. So I read a little bit. So I don't like to divulge what I've read, right? Because I want it to be your story, not
Yeah, sure.
the articles I've read. But there was something I did read that really struck a chord. It's very similar to my journey in business personally, which was you started online. You started with low costs. And then what was that transition like going from the online store to the brick and mortar store?
So when I first set up my website online, it actually wasn't for general public. I actually met a stylist that lived in California, worked in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
I bumped into him in a leather store.
Yeah.
Was carrying a bag that I made. Conversation struck up. He was pointing out how difficult it is to find leather workers and leather designers. And so, we agreed to kind of touch base with each other, continued a conversation, and told him, okay, look, I have some designs. If you have clients that are interested, I can do custom colors for you. And so the website was originally set up for that stylist.
Yeah.
He'd log in, see the designs, and go from there. I met a few other stylists, and I supported them through that same medium. Where it changed is when I decided the disconnect between their clients and me means I don't really get any feedback.
Right.
I don't hear from the customer. I hear from the stylist, and that's great.
Right.
They like what I do, but I'm not getting the feedback I need to continue designing new collections. And so I decided to expand that out to direct to consumer. Not having any idea what I was getting myself into.
Do you what shop were you using, if you don't mind me asking? Like, the tools are another big part of the series. The tools that, like,
so I
Shopify.
started with Shopify from day one.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it's they're awesome.
Yeah.
Where they were in 2013 was very different from where
very different.
Yes.
They were so user friendly back then.
I know, right? So yeah.
Very specific product. Now they're trying to capture every market, from websites to
everything.
Yeah.
In this case, my IT background really benefited me from there, because I was able to create a very high quality site, do a lot of the coding that I needed. What I couldn't do, I could, kick a few friends that I knew from the industry and ask them to pitch in, those type of things. But it saved a lot on the back end in terms of dollars for a decent site. But Shopify was instrumental because coming out of the 90s in IT, I remember where web was. That the possibilities were just not there. So even today, what you can do on Shopify is phenomenal.
Right.
And so that was instrumental in getting the site up. But, I'll say then the same case existed then with Shopify that exists today. Shopify doesn't bring you customers.
Right.
You got to get out there and do the work yourself.
Totally.
They're the tool. They're not the target. And so
they're trying hard with their blog pages and they now have all the shop. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it does help, but at the end of the day, you have to know your customer. You have to get out in the market. You have to kind of beat the bushes, so to speak.
So that's a great segue to the brick and mortar location. Where are you guys located?
We're at 221 North Market Street.
221 North Market Street. And I imagine at a brick and mortar location, you have a lot more engagement with customers.
Absolutely.
People who are coming in, who are able to touch things, look at things, ask you questions. What did that do for your product development? What has that kind of done for your reviews? Some of the other things that strengthen a business.
For me, one of the biggest reasons I moved to the location was, one, to expand my production. So out of my space, a majority of that space is production space for design.
So you do a lot of that right here on Market?
Yeah, everything is
Everything's right here. Okay, well, wow.
From design to the finished product to it put on the shelf for a customer to buy is done right there. And so it allows you complete control of everything that's happening. I mean, if I decide I want a new color tomorrow, pump it out, get it done. I'm saying, okay, I'm making black, brown belts. I want to make a blue one.
Right.
Okay, by the end of the week, it's on the shelf.
Yeah.
And so that kind of turnover is impossible if I'm sending it overseas.
Yeah.
I don't care how fast you are in designing, you still got to ship to get it back here. And so, you don't have to worry about that. Now, with that comes smaller volume, but that's okay. I'm focused on a target market who is looking for extremely high quality, some customization. I usually fit people for belts.
Right.
And so, they can get the number of holes they want. They can get the, color of
I love this.
buckle that they want. If they need a heavier leather, because some people just, the standard leather doesn't work.
Right.
They need a heavier leather. We can do that.
Wow.
And so those are the type of things that are best done by hand.
Right.
Right. So at 221 North Market, one of the reasons I moved there is all of the great things I saw going on in the city in terms of just renaissance, the changes that they were having. We are literally 2 blocks from the train station. You can hop off and take a stroll up. 2 blocks away from the riverfront. You can walk down there and see the sights. And we're, a few blocks away from great restaurants like the Stitch House. And so, you see that type of development and you want to be part of those changes. I have the luxury of having family members that were in Wilmington from the early 50s and saw Wilmington back in its heyday in the 70s when I was a little kid. And remember the tons of shops, the tons of tailors, shoe sellers, furniture stores that Wilmington had. I wanted to be a part of bringing something back. And 221 Market really resonated to me for one particular reason. The historical area and the fact that in the 1850s, that whole area was leather. Wow, no
kidding.
Wilmington was one of the biggest shippers of lambskin in the world in the 1850s.
Wow.
And what is today Del Tech used to be tanneries.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it seemed like Providence.
So I grew up right over here on Brim Street, and my family goes way back in the Wilmington area. My dad was actually a tailor right on Market Street maybe 20 years ago, like suits, like men's suits. And he told me a little bit about like the history of the fabrics and things like that. I didn't realize that the Del Tech campus was once a tanner, but that's very cool. One other thing I'll mention about Loma, as we like to say, Lower Market.
Yes.
But Stitch House, they were actually, Stitch House, Space Boy, I'm sorry. Space Boy Clothing was actually the first, they were the first business here for its business time. And you're right.
They
right
just
across
moved in
from them.
next one.
Yeah.
They're 2 days down from me.
Yeah, got you. I would love to see a collaboration there because they have some cool designs you have some cool things to put. No, I'm just kidding.
I would love to see that too. Sometimes entrepreneurs, we get stuck in our bubble, right?
Yeah.
We have to kind of get out. And so, hopefully we get together on this.
Yeah, no, they're great guys, and they have a very similar kind of story about like the journey from idea into brick and mortar. And really you're very much a wealth of entrepreneur wisdom. Like I have so many questions about the pre-business side of things. But what's so cool about the business that you have now, Town and Shore, is that you exemplify so many of the layers, the online shop moving into the brick and mortar. That's a huge moment for any business. You also are creating the product yourself and then selling it.
Yes.
That's something a lot of businesses find a way to repackage someone else's product and then run with that.
Yes.
And so I just love this story of like you were in a world where many small business owners want to get to, right? The corporate size. And you left that to be so hands-on.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
And that's a very, very different world.
Yeah.
I could go on, but I can't say that I don't miss it. I loved what I did before. I love what I do now. And, but they are very different in that you get to see your handiwork in a person's life and how they see it, wear it, and how they connect to it. And those connections kind of go on. I've had people who have bought travel bags from me who've come back and said, Liv, I need to buy another travel bag. My son took it. They thought it was cool and it just disappeared. I find out they got it
That's
at
a
college.
huge compliment, right? If your kids are stealing your clothes, it means you're doing something right.
You're like, I'm hiding this one. So those are great things. And just the creativity is wonderful. Is to be able to see something come from idea.
Speaking of creativity in leather, and I'm off on a tangent a little bit, but I have a group of friends who are huge Renaissance Fair folks, And if you ever want to see a whole bunch of amateur and professional leather workers all in one place, you know, they
I
make,
have a few friends in the ring.
yeah. In fact, I might send some of them your way to make some custom belts and things like that, because, you know, when it comes to, you know, we think of this stuff as if you buy something quality, you get to use it. They go every year, right? So they get to use it every year for the rest of their lives. Whereas if you buy the low quality stuff, you get 2, maybe 3 years, starts to peel, fall apart.
Yes.
And when you're trying to, you know, be the you know, high class whatever archer or whatever it is, you want the good stuff.
The elite archer, yes.
Yeah, that's so neat. So you know, we're all caught up. You're here on Market Street. How long have you been at this location?
So we opened into December of 21.
21.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
And things are going well. Like, kind of, what's the journey in terms of, like, I know Downtown Visions are the ones who mentioned y'all. I know
Absolutely.
Big supporters. I as I've kind of talked to other small businesses in the area, your name has come up a couple times as just like a really great reference resource. Is there anything that, like, what's like your number one product, the thing that you're really excited about?
So my number one product is my travel bags.
The travel bags.
They're all hand stitched.
Yeah.
They come in 3 sizes. They are a steep price point, but I've had customers, like I said, come back, you know, repeat.
Big value.
Yeah, they're big value.
Yeah.
They're distinctive.
Yeah.
I use a lot of vegetable tanned leather, a lot
Yeah.
of Italian
wow.
milled leather. You know, just they're items that are going to last you 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I saw the.
So I make them with the idea that, you know, you want someone fighting over them when you're dead.
Yeah. I saw the Delaware online article where you were talking about sustainability. You said the
Yes.
vegetable tan. That's something that's important to you, it seems, as well.
So yes, vegetable tan leather, you can't apply it always to everything, but one of the wonderful things about it is that it has a lower footprint in terms of its impact on both water quality and its impact on, you know, the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
So the other part of that, though, is working with tanneries that exemplify the businesses that stick with regulations. And whether
Right.
it's vegetable tan leather or whether it's chrome tan leather, you have to be able to track those resources
Yeah.
and make sure that they are staying within not just the letter of the law, but that they have that as a priority too.
Yeah.
And that narrows down the number of tanneries you can work with. When you're small, you don't need a lot of tanneries
Yeah.
to work with. You need the best tanneries to work with.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the things that I find to be the biggest benefit of having a slow fashion, small production business, is that I can focus on who I'm buying my raw materials from.
Yeah, the ethics, the supply chain, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Man, this is wonderful. I mean, I do want to keep these digestible at around 20 minutes.
Okay.
So, you know, unfortunately, we're kind of wrapping at the end, but you have so many of the qualities, the characteristics that I love to showcase, because, like, the whole like, you know how to grow a business without touching a single product. But you decided to make sure that you are hands-on with every product. That is something that's so inspirational and so fun to talk to you about. Honestly, I have so many questions for you. But
I'd be more than happy to come back again.
Yeah, I would love to have you back at some point. In the interest of time, I do want to make sure to leave one commercial here. You can find Town and Shore Handcrafted on Market Street right here. Check out their website as well.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm definitely going to be swinging through the store. And thank you again so much for joining the series.
you,
Is there
Aaron.
anything you wanted to add here before we head out?
No, come on down. We have a new product line coming out for home goods, leather trays, those type of things that are hand molded.
Yeah.
Come get your Christmas gifts with Town and Shore. I'm ready to see you whenever you're ready.
Awesome.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Nice. And of course, thanks to Downtown Visions for the connection.
Yes.
This is wonderful. And Liv, it has been a pleasure. Thank
It's
you
been a
so
pleasure
much for coming
talking to
through
you.
this week. That wraps it up for week 15 of It's Business Time with Liv McClintock of Town and Shore. I want to thank Stitch House for having us, and we will see you guys next time. Have a great holiday.
Bye.
It's business.